Good morning and welcome to the Red Mic. Hope everybody's doing okay. Happy Friday. Glad you're here. These Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons I've picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message is a football inspired message of sorts. Well, not of sorts. It's exactly what it is. It's football inspired. We're going into a big football weekend. We just came out of a big football weekend. How about Vandy? Wow. That was impressive, right? Um, so much for Saban saying that anybody can go in and beat Vandy. Congrats again to Vandy. Woohoo! Gotta like it, right? And if you are in Texas, well, it doesn't matter where you are. Just answer this question: what time is it? Enough said, right? Yeah, hook 'em. Um, but mentioning Vandy and who they played, there's a story, and it's on the internet, so it must be true. There's a story about Bear Bryant. Supposedly, when he was before he had even ever coached a down at the University of Alabama, he was going through the countryside, trying to find a place to go see a prospect, and he was hungry, so he stopped at this place that supposedly the only sign on it said restaurant. Didn't even say what kind of food it was or anything. Well, this was, early 60s, and he walks in the door, and he was the only white guy there, and didn't intimidate him. He didn't care. Walked right up, sat down, ended up talking to the owner, told him who he was, why he was around, and he said, "Well, I don't know if this food's going to be what you want, because we serve chitlins, we serve poor folks food around here." He said, supposedly Bear told him, he said, "You know what? I'm a country boy too, and I've probably eaten more. I've probably eaten miles of chitlins. So yeah, bring them on." Um, he ate the meal. He complimented the owner, said it was probably one of the best meals he'd ever had. And the owner said, "Well, he said, you're the coach there. You got a autographed photo or anything like that, so I can hang up in the place here and let folks know that you were here?" And he said, "No, I don't. But tell you what, write down your name and number and address here, and I promise I'll get you one." And I'm sure the owner was like, "Yeah, sure you are." But Bryant got back to his office supposedly and picked up that piece of paper and remembered, I need to take care of this guy. So he signed a picture basically saying what he had said before. "Thanks for the best meal I ever had. Sincerely, Bear Bryant," right? Sent it off. Fast forward years later, 10, 15, 20 years later. And that little restaurant is now a barbecue joint, and it's a lot more popular. It's a lot bigger. It's a lot more popular, makes more money, all of that. But that owner still has that picture of Bear Bryant hanging. Well, a prospect that Bear went to go see, he didn't realize it, but he was the grandson of that same guy. Well, this prospect said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to Auburn. I don't want to. I don't want to. No respect, no disrespect, sir, but I plan on going to Auburn." He said, "All right, I understand completely." A couple 3 days later, that prospect comes knocking on his door and says, "Coach, you still interested in me?" He was like, "Well, yeah," but he said, "I thought you were going to Auburn." He said, "Well, I went home and told my granddaddy that I'd met with you and told him, that I didn't plan on playing for you." And he said, "Yeah, you are. You're not going to play anywhere else." He said, "That man can teach you more about integrity in life than anybody you're ever gonna run into." Now, the reason I doubt the veracity of the story is because they never mentioned who the player was. They never mentioned the name of the business then, or any of that. So take all this with a grain of salt. But if nothing else, it's a good anecdote. The grandson ended up playing for Bear Bryant supposedly because that grandfather said he didn't know me from Adam. He had no reason to follow through on his promise because we'd had our transaction. It was over and done. But he promised me he was going to send me a picture, and he did. And that tells me everything I need to know about the man. Okay. Now, whether this story is true or not, frankly, is irrelevant. You know, you run into stories like this all the time on the internet. Um, the intent of the story, I think, is the more important thing. What is the story trying to tell you? Well, Facebook got it wrong. You know, I don't even remember what the point Facebook was trying to make, but they tried to make it about kindness and, you know, being nice to people. And yeah, that's a little teeny tiny part of it, but to me, it's about doing what you say you're going to do. Bear Bryant supposedly gave this guy his promise. He said, I'm going to give you this picture, and he did. And then years later, that simple act of following through on his word paid the dividends, and that he ended up with that top prospect that didn't even want to play for him initially. Again, they don't mention the prospect's name. They don't mention the grandfather's name, any of that. So, yeah, there's probably a veracity issue there. If you tried to quote this and say it was true, you'd probably get community noted, as they like to say, or fact checked. But I think those kind of fact checks miss the bigger point. And the point is, if you give someone your word, live up to that. Your integrity is the most valuable thing that you've got. If people know you as a person of your word, that's going to pay dividends in the long run. Don't know how to make it any clearer than that. That's today's Red Mike message. Hope you found it helpful. I hope you find it useful as you move on through life. I hope you try to remember this supposed story about Bear Bryant as you move on and have dealings with folks. Excuse me. It's Austin. Allergies, do what you got to do, right? Other than that, again, big football weekend coming up. Hook 'em. Would love to hear your comments. Give me a comment, down below. I'd appreciate a like, a follow, and a share. Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate it. Hope to see you again Monday. Don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon.